Now, say my name.
The Rolling Bad Podcast.
You're goddamn right.
Coming to you almost live from the secret base on Yavin 4 in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. It's the Rolling Bad Podcast, episode number 148. It is June 4th, and I'm your host, Bill. New 40K. Where's our Flesh Eater Courts? Costello, and with me?
All the way from the 40K salt pits, it's Joshua. I know what you're complaining about. I can use a Proteus as a Land Raider alt.
I like it. I like it a lot. Wow. So, a lot of 40K references here.
Oh, 10th is here, Bill.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure today's pre-order is going to be Leviathan.
Yeah, you think?
Well, let's just see here. Every video that came out yesterday was, we've got Leviathan. It's all built. Here's our first bat rep. So pretty much the embargo's lifted. That means, yeah.
Here are my thoughts on the rules. Here are my thoughts on the rules. Here are my thoughts on the rules.
It's
There's a lot of noise right now.
Yeah, when I saw Sword and Steel Naomi doing the, how to customize and build the Leviathan box, I'm like, okay, we're a week out.
Yep.
So Squidmar put out yesterday, we stayed up 24 hours to be the first ones with a fully painted 10th edition 40K army. And I'm like, okay, everybody's capitalizing on this, which is, I'm not begrudging them that. That's how they make their money. Yeah, I'm pretty sure today is 10th. So that means AOS players, let's just go back to our caves for 2 months, Honestly, you have to understand that this is big. This is, the flagship product.
Yep.
It's going to be very limited for us in the next few weeks, and that's fine. I don't care. Because when we roll out, 4th edition, it'll be the same thing for 40K players.
Oh, yeah.
They'll hate life.
Yeah. They'll just complain loudly.
Yeah, louder than us. And they'll get releases.
Yeah.
So, all right. So just as a preview of what we're going to do today, cover all the normal stuff, but in lore, we're going to actually do because everyone does, a tier list. Yes, they're scrambling for content with 40K coming out. There's nothing. But we're going to do a tier list of all the Path to Glories and kind of give an overview of what our considerations were, and then we'll start ranking them.
Certainly, and give a little bit of our thoughts behind each one. I think in terms of how the spread came out, in terms of their tiering, I think it's actually fairly consistent.
Yeah.
And I think that based off our past reviews, it's consistent with our past reviews. So I think it's going to be a fun one. I mean, I love sort of tiering things up,
It's kind of funny. It seems like you always, content creators always use tier lists as fillers.
Yeah.
But they are actually kind of fun to do.
Yeah.
They make you think about what you covered in all those shows and how does it work in the ecosystem. So, yeah, fun.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to hit intro-wise is a big welcome back to Carl Tuttle and the whole Independent Characters crew. Condolences for their loss. It's really sad to hear that one of their members passed away recently, too. So that's tough on all of them. Really, really broke them up out there. But it's really good to have the Independent Characters back. Such a great show and well thought out, well produced. Love it. Love it. So, and then the next bombshell that I got to drop, well, it's not a bombshell, it's a thing. I will not be running the narrative at LVO next year.
Yeah, that's surreal.
It's so annoying, but I cannot reliably predict that I will be available that weekend in January.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to do is do all this stuff to get it ready to go, have people bought tickets, and then say, yeah, no, I can't be there.
Yeah.
And that would be rude as hell. So, yeah, I talked with Kicker over there at LVO staff, and I gave him the name of the guy who probably will take over and do it this year. Nero Hewitt is the guy that runs the Las Vegas narrative community. He's a great mind. He's a great Neo. He's a great guy. Hopefully he can put something together. I feel really bad because I started work on revamping everything to move it to a different, one of the different Mortal Realms. Started fleshing out all the framework stuff and started producing some of the different caravan materials. And then it was like, oh, lovely.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, we have things at work that are coming up that are just too major that I can't reliably say I'm going to be available that weekend.
Yeah. Shame, but
yeah,
duty calls, so to speak.
Yeah, something like that.
But who knows? Maybe if you do end up getting that time off from work, you could actually go participate in the narrative.
Yeah, what's funny is I did not buy a LVO ticket again because I don't think I'm going to be around. However, I love the idea that I can just drop in if I can.
Yeah.
And just hang out. I won't have anything. Obviously, it'll be far too late to register for anything.
Yeah.
But the idea that just go around there and just hang out will be a lot of fun with I've got to do this. I've got to have this ready. I've got to move these things. No, I'm just here as look at me. I'm a thing.
Yep.
I'm a person. So, yeah, there's that. All right, shall we move on to New Dawn?
I think so.
Okay, so let's just hit pre-orders. So this week's pre-orders, as you can imagine, with Leviathan coming out next week, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, pretty short,
Yes.
pretty quick. They did the Death Guard Heroes, which are the blind box, not actually that blind, because if you buy a box, you're guaranteed to get everything. But it's the Death Guard Heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were out, a little bit ago in Japan, so everybody had an opportunity to buy them there. But they're available and they sold out. So obviously there's that Sorcerer, I think, is the big draw.
I think so. I think so too.
And then a Warhammer Underworld's new starters. Okay.
Yeah.
why?
They just released Weird Hollow like
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago. I mean, I get it because it's not the entire box, right? It's literally just like the 2 war bands and their cards and stuff like that. So it's not the full blown. But
And
again,
it does make sense if you're starting to get new people into it. The old starter box was dated and had cards that have been deprecated.
mm-hmm.
So to tell somebody, buy this box, but then we have to go through it and take out all the stuff that doesn't work right now. And you're like, really? I have to throw away stuff I just bought.
Yeah.
Thanks. No, now, everything is going to be up to speed. So it does make sense. Filler for 40K.
I think it'll also be a Barnes & Noble release too. They did the same thing with, was it Dreadfane?
Yeah.
So I think that's sort of what the product is, since you'd be able to get a Barnes & Noble. They want you to be able to get it here, but it ain't much.
Yep. So then also for Warhammer Underworlds, they released the Headsman's Curse, which is a Night Haunt warband or whatever you want to call them. Honestly, I gotta say that this box, I obviously am going to get this because I want the cards, but the 4 models that are in that, to me, look like chain rasps that, probably when they put the chain rasps together, they had like 30, 40 designs and they settled on 10 or 15 of them.
Oh my God.
And I think these are just, hey, and there's nothing wrong with that. They are cool looking models, but there's nothing there that says, oh my God, this is new and different and points to a new direction for Night Hunt. No. So I want the cards. So yeah, definitely going to be getting those. Also the Void Curse Thralls rival deck. So another rival, those rival sets are they're so bonkers good.
Yeah.
So good. And it's like I said in previous shows, it's a great way to, hey, when the wife and I play, to make sure that it's an even playing field and not, I have my deck that I play for, if I play somebody that plays Warhammer Underworlds and they're tuned up like you can, but then there's decks that I can just play with her and they're even.
Yep.
So great idea there. And then the big thing was the limited edition Andrasta book signed by the author.
Book.
Oh yeah. The only reason I try not to go to the store when it's free mini day, just because crowds and I'm not good with that. But I had to be there to pre-order that because man, I wanted that and I got it. So
awesome.
So yeah, but it was free mini day at the store.
Yep.
I was like, yeah, no, I don't want that. And then the manager was like, yeah, but here's the deal. It's a straight Saurus Warrior. So if you want to reinforce your unit, here's your opportunity to replace the other champion with a guy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, duh, why did I think of that? Okay. Yeah, there was a reason to get that one.
There you go.
So when the coins came out too, so that was pretty cool. And then in other news, in the more, wow, this sucked up more of my life than I thought it was going to. AMG released Star Wars Shatterpoint on the 2nd. I had a great opportunity earlier in the week to demo the game. I'll talk about that in battle. but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you looked at my Facebook, mistakes may have been made. Things may have been purchased. I spent most of yesterday building the core box.
Yep.
So yeah,
See it behind you.
yeah. It's so, okay, we're going to get to this in a little bit, but AMG did so many things right on that release. I mean, just inside the box, there's these 2 cardboard backdrops for taking pictures of your minis.
Huh.
Complete with, it's corrugated cardboard, completely with a fold line so you can set it down, set up your phone, and take really, start taking good pictures of your minis with a good backdrop. Really nice little touch. What they didn't put in the box was assembly instructions for anything. Okay? Now, it irks me to no end, and I understand. They're available on the website. Boom. They were right there. It's super easy to go get. But for the life of me, nowhere on the box or the manual did I see anything that said, hey, for assembly instructions, go to our website and download these or,
Oh, Lord.
access these things.
Right.
And to me, if you're just new and you're getting into this for the first time and you've never done anything like this before, and you get a box literally has a ton of plastic in it, and you're like, how do I build these? And 90% of the models are, you can kind of look at it and go, okay, I know how to build it.
Yeah.
But that comes with experience. The new player isn't going to look at that sprue and go, okay, there's the body, head, legs, arms. Oh, I got to put that on first. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when you get to the B1 battle droids, which even if you're experienced are a pain in the... Just an insert sheet would have been really nice that said, hey, if you want to learn how to build these models, go to atomicmassgames.com/assembly or Shatterpoint assembly. And here's all the, and I mean, they have great, it's a great little assembly guide for everything. Perfect. Just make it available to the new players, you dorks.
That kind of parlays right into creation, though, because that's what you were talking about, right?
Yes. So building the entire box. Yes, let's move into creation.
How many models did you put together?
Okay, so there's the 16 characters, the 16, fighter types, units. And then as far as terrain goes, there's 5 big building structure type things. And then there's the gantries and the cargo boxes and just a myriad of scatter terrain and ladders and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was, what you get in that box is an amazing amount of stuff.
Yeah.
And you will hit the ground running. The table will be appropriate and you will have a good game with just what's in the box. You don't have to get crazy. So really good offering. But yeah, it took me all of yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Honestly, I would say I started after I got back from the store. So from noon till about maybe 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So about 10 hours to put everything together. And I was going slow. I was trying to get rid of mold lines and, trying to do it right. But yeah, it was time consuming, but fun.
Oh, yeah.
As you build each one of them. And what's nice is each one of the models is technically kind of a hero. You've got Anakin, Ahsoka, Ventress, Darth Maul. And then, you have Gar Saxon, and then there's the Mandalorians that go with them, and the B1 battle droid. So every one of them has a little bit of character. And when you look at the B1 battle droids, and you're like, well, those are boring. There's a lot you can do to pose them up and to make them kind of cool.
Oh, cool.
I just really wish I had thought of it and printed a C-3PO head or, gotten a hold of one from another kit and popped it onto one of them. I just should have thought of that, but I didn't. And then I saw on the Facebook site, someone did, and it looks awesome.
Like, dang it.
I love it.
Now I need to buy a whole nother starter box just so I can get the one model. No.
Oh, there'll be plenty of B1 battle droids. God.
Yeah.
So I haven't opened up the boxes for Obi-Wan and his force and Count Dooku and his force.
Yeah.
So it seems like the way they're going to release these things is as battle forces for each, because each box, each expansion that came out with the first wave was, Obi-Wan, and I forgot who his secondary is. And then it's got 501st Clone Troopers.
Okay.
Whereas Dooku has Dooku and I forget, and Magna Guard. So it's a self-contained, you build that box, you can play it. It can be one of your 2 units on the field. So, yeah, I think it's a neat way of doing it, but it also, as these things come out, you're going to see where there's going to be different synergies, and you can swap out the Magna Guard for B1s or, just do other things. So it's a really neat system, but we'll get to that probably a lot more in After Dark, but really good. The other thing that my one free night this week that I built the Frosthaven Laserox wooden organizer for the box.
Oh, cool.
Oh my God. That took like 3 hours to build.
Really?
Oh my God. Yeah. It's all laser cut birch plywood. It's beautiful. When it goes together, I had to use glue maybe twice.
Oh,
on tiny little things. But everything is so perfectly fit. And my fear was in the desert, as soon as I open that box, it's going to start to dry out, and that perfect fit is going to be sloppy. Not a bit. They had it.
That's great.
Really well thought out, really well planned. I am amazed. Everything I've ever gotten from Laserox has been like that.
Oh, wow.
It's just super easy assembly, and the functionality is so over the top. But that was my creation.
Yeah, mine. I realize I only wrote one thing down here.
I'm sure that's
it's not true.
lie.
Yeah. So the one thing I wrote down here is I built and primed a Land Raider Proteus last night. Josh, why'd you do that? Well, because the Warhammer community article said that I could use a Land Raider Proteus, essentially, or other Land Raider variant, as a Land Raider in 40K.
Yeah.
And it has a smaller hull size and it's more maneuverable. And I just thought, maybe I would do it. So
hell yes.
Then I also built the Inquisitorial Agents from the new Inquisitorial Agent Kill Team. I built, oh my God, it's the Warhammer Underworld's like witch hunters. Hexbane's Hunters, yeah. So I built them. I'm going to use them for an upcoming Warhammer Underworlds thing at the store because doggos, right?
Because doggos,
yeah. Dogs. Yeah, just doggos and you're done. Mm-hmm. And I think that's actually all I did. It was a really busy couple of weeks for me.
Yeah.
Like work has been insane.
Yeah.
Been insane. We're down an attorney. No. Technically down 2 or 3. I think we have 3 open positions.
Oh, man.
So having to pick up slack, and I get home and I just want to like stare at the wall. Like, no one look at me. No one touch me. No one even think of me. I got Boltgun on my PS5.
Oh, God.
But I also got it on my Switch.
Okay.
And it's so fun playing it on the Switch, just here and there, like do a quick level while you're just chilling.
Sure.
Perfect game for the Switch, honestly.
It is a terrible, terrible game. Oh my God. It's so easy to lose 2 hours to that game without even realizing time went by.
Yep.
Because you're just like, oh man, this is just, I'll just do one more. It's all right. Oh man, so much fun. And so basic.
Yes.
It's no frills, just works. Wow.
I want to see what the numbers are on the sales, because I feel like it's doing really well.
I hope it is, yeah.
And, maybe opening the door more for indie markets like that.
Yep.
Maybe get a AOS type bolt gun game, so it's more like Hexen. Remember Hexen?
Yeah, yeah.
Similar feel. You could play Stormcast Eternal.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that'd be pretty fun.
Oh, it would be.
That would be pretty fun. And then you just have like Marauders and basic cultists. Yeah, it'd be so easy to do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm here for it. I think they should really expand it. That was a digression for sure. But yeah, creation front, not too much.
Yeah, I hear you. I didn't have a lot of free time, but
yeah.
Whew. All right, let's move on to battle.
Okay.
So I'll go first because mine are, again, not within the realm of what we do here. I did play a BattleTech campaign game. I got one in, lost so badly, played it so poorly. I played against the guy that I demolished the last time.
Oh, yeah.
So it was a little bit of vengeance, which was probably good. We had 3 lances. The way the scenario worked, we had 2 scouting lances that were on the planet first. And then it was going to be a variable number of turns until our support and, whatever other lances you brought came down.
Yeah.
So you didn't know when your guys were going to come in.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, they were guaranteed by turn 6.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I will just be a little bit brave with my scout lance. That was not a good idea. Not a good idea. because they got whacked. Oh my God, did they get whacked? And then, of course, that just sets you on the back foot for when I had a support and a command lance come down. They had to deploy all the way at the back because the scout lance couldn't set up a transponder for them because they were mostly dead.
Oof.
So he was capping the objectives. I was slogging my way up the board.
That'll do it.
Yeah, he was, having fun firing from prepared positions where I was like, okay, this was really, I should have just run like a little girl, but I didn't. I ended up losing three mechs, and about 12 million C-bills. It was horrible, but it didn't come anywhere close to what I did to him in the previous game. So I'm still on the plus side. But
yeah, there you go.
That one hurt, but it was justice. Larry got his, he got justice. And like I said, I did have the opportunity to preview Shatterpoint a little bit.
Yeah.
And got 3 games of that in. One, of course, was a training game.
Yeah.
Here's how to play. That one took considerably longer because, honestly, by the third, literally by about the last struggle, I think my opponent and I knew the game well enough that we could have just played without the programmed instruction. But we followed that through, and then we played 2 games where we just took the core box stuff and played it once. Then swap sides completely. We just walked around the table so we were playing the other side. And it was a lot of fun. We had a great time. The way the struggles work and the way the victory is always just bouncing back and forth. And the struggle tracker that actually acts as the timer for the game in a very subtle way.
Yeah.
It's just so slick. And honestly, it was a lot of fun. And we split the games, which kind of is what we expected to happen, simply because there's just so much. It's so even. It's so balanced across the board. The only mechanic that I would like to see reimagined or re-looked at is, it's an activation system where it's like Legion, where you draw a chip to see what unit goes. Okay. In this one, you flip a card. And you have a card for each unit in your force. And then you have a Shatterpoint card, which lets you activate any unit, even somebody that's already gone. The problem is in an average struggle, you might not get through your deck. You might not activate everybody. So someone might just sit there. And I had a game where Asajj Ventress just sat there and did nothing. She just sat there and licked her lips and looked pretty. So it was kind of weird. I wish there was a little bit more player agency and that may be coming. There might be a future force that comes out and will let you modify that deck. Who knows? But it's something that they should look at, I think. But that was a lot of fun. I really like Shatterpoint.
That's
it's
cool.
Good.
Well, I'm glad that you like it despite the issue with the build instructions, right?
Yeah.
So aside from that, the rest of the game seems good.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
It's so nuts, so crazy, but it really captures that small unit feel.
Yeah.
So it's literally Crisis Protocol for Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
Except it's a completely different system. Don't think it's the same rules, but it brings it down to that level of the individual.
Cool.
And the impact that they can have. So fun.
Yeah, I like it. So I played Warcry. So we had the Warcry event going on. Actually, it ends today, so I'm going to try and get a game in or 2. Main purpose was just to get 3 games with my unit, since that'll count towards having a veteran ability in Path to Glory. So you just start leveled up. I was like, I'll do that.
That makes sense.
Flesh Eater Courts, like I said, the king of Candyland. I don't know what it is. So I played 4 games.
Yeah.
3 out of the 4 games have been run off the board.
Oh,
Not the same run off the board scenario, mind you, but a run off the board scenario.
wow.
And it is frustrating to no end. I mean, I know how to do it effectively.
Sure.
And Flesh Eater Courts have a sort of an up on that too, with the Abhorrent Archregent, or actually any leader.
Yeah.
Can spend a triple and add half of the movement character, half of the value to the movement characteristic rounded up. And so, I get a 5 or a 6. I'm getting, plus 3 inches to my move.
Yep.
And every single time it's been on the short on the short end of the board.
Oh, man.
So the long, so I was just like, move, I'm off the board. Move, I'm off the board. Move, I'm off the board.
Yeah, because we're not talking a lot of hexes here. No.
It's really funny just to coincidentally have that. And it seems like there's a pattern going on. So like Ed at the shop, he's gone like we played one game, which is run off the board, but every other game has been a treasure chest thing for him. With like nothing in between. It's not like a murder fest or anything like that. I was like, this is redonkulous. But I pulled the we call it pro gamer move on Ed when we were playing. It was Stormcast. I had more models than him. I think he killed one of my models before I could get it off the board. So at time I had 8 models. He has 6 whole models, for his warband. So I had 6 off the board, right?
Jeez.
The only one I had left was my Crypt Horror, big old dude. And based on like where he was and all that, like Ed had stopped him from being able to run off the board.
Yeah.
Which I was like, cool. So let's play that game. So then what I did is I fell back from the unit that was there, and it was in close proximity to just a foot guy. So I positioned my model in such a way that he had to retreat and go around and would not have enough move to get off the board. And so that's how I won that game.
6-5.
And I was like, oh yeah, there we go. That's how it's done.
Love it.
Played one game against Willow where it was like the essentially assassinate their hero, and her hero's pretty tanky with 5 up armor.
Ooh.
The thing was, and we didn't catch this for an entire turn, right? I won the battle a turn earlier.
Oh.
But based on where my Flayer came in, because Flayers are super fast, right? Based on where my Flayer came in, I was able to, once her hero came in, just run up the board and pin him in the corner. The thing we forgot is that if the hero that needs to be assassinated is within 4 inches of the board edge, he dies.
Oh.
And so we keep going. I'm like, I don't know if I can claw this guy down fast enough. Like, I haven't left that much room. But I done it in such a way that he couldn't actually, like, the model couldn't retreat and fall back. And I showed Willow, like, see, I positioned it in such a way that if you move this guy forward, you would go off the board, which you're not allowed to do. So then, we got to the end of battle round 3, and I was like, I killed your hero, like, turn 2.
Oh, no.
Oops. That was the only don't run off the board scenario that I got. Oh, man. But it's been really fun. Warcry is great, and if you know what you're doing, other than setup time, right, it should take you 15-20 minutes to play the game.
Yeah, Warcry is so quick.
Yeah, it's so fun. So, like, if you got, several friends together, each one's got a different warband, you can just rotate on them constantly without thinking, like, oh, I'm not going to get a game in, before I go. Warcry is great.
When it first came out, we were doing full campaigns in a day.
Yes.
It was that quick, that easy, especially back then when there wasn't really that much out.
Yeah.
Before they came out with those books that opened up the floodgates to everybody.
Yep.
There was just the few basic warbands and the cards. You could just rip through games. And like you said, 30 minutes, that's a game.
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing Nurgle, it takes longer just because they move so slowly. But
yes. Oh, God.
I mean, some of the scenarios, like back before they put the rule in about flying units.
Yeah.
You used to be able to, like, take a Kinnerai.
Oh, yeah.
Grab the chest and fly off the board in one go.
Yeah.
Because you had a ridiculous move characteristic.
Yep.
They've changed that now. So if you grab a treasure chest, you cannot fly.
No longer fly.
And you subtract 3 inches from your movement characteristic.
Yes, thank you.
And I was like, this is clean.
Yeah.
This is how it should be. Yeah, so they've done a lot to balance Warcry.
Yeah.
Frankly. I mean, there are some scenarios that are just unbalanced because if you're just doing the cards, you'll pull like a random deployment and then like the run off the board one, for example.
Sure.
Right? It was like turn 2, I would start with a unit like halfway up the board.
Yeah.
Like they just pop on and be like, cool, I'm going to run this way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many times that you have to really look at that card setup and go, this isn't going to be a good game.
Yeah.
And just shuffle up and deal again. So,
agreed.
But again, it's super easy. And honestly, with a little bit of experience, you can tell if this is going to be really, really bad.
Yeah.
Especially depending on what you have. Nurgle getting a run off the board scenario.
Yeah.
Super boring. Super boring because it's almost a no-win scenario for them. But if they do win, it feels really good. God.
Yeah, Nurgle's so slow. I mean, they can tank a lot, but they're so slow. That's tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's what they do. They tank.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord, they're just so hard to move. God.
So hard.
Oh.
3 inches per activation. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Your max move without giving any buffs is 6 inches.
Yeah.
Oh.
Max.
I mean, the Warcry terrain or board size is pretty small.
Yeah.
Right? But I mean, in some instances, that's not even enough to climb up something.
Right.
You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, a lot of times they can't get up to some of the newer terrain sets.
Mm-hmm.
They can't get on top. Just
Nope.
don't have the move.
Nope.
So they have to use the let me waste a turn. Ugh. Which, for Nurgle is about par for the course, but ho-hum. So
Yeah. I mean, I think that covers it for battle for me. I mean, I may have some more, as of this afternoon, but
Yeah.
I think that's about it.
all right then.
Make sure you join us tonight for the news at 11.
Okay, here's the big bombshell, the shocker. The lady said it. It's the news at 11. Guess what's coming out?
AOS 4th edition.
Oh, man, you buried the lead. All right, so Leviathan hits the streets next week. Guaranteed it's going to be a queue it on the website.
2-week
And-
pre-order.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, Leviathan's been all over the place. It's in the box,
Yeah.
right?
I have no idea how much that box is going to cost, but I bet you it's going to be a chunk of change. There's a lot in there.
250 to 300. Kind
Yeah.
of my guesstimates. There's a ton of stuff in there, and I don't know. Maybe we'll have some real talk about it in After Dark about our thoughts on purchasing it. A lot of new beautiful models.
Yep.
Oh, we can't forget the Leviathan book that's coming out, the special edition
Oh,
one.
it's beautiful.
Looks so good.
It's a Darius Hinks book, so it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
I kind of like the way he goes through stuff. So, but again, it's going to be tied to the release. So
Yeah.
guaranteed you every model is going to be mentioned in the book. So yeah, I hate to be the Black Library author that's given this book prospectus to write. And it's got to include the following things,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh God, this is going to be dumb.
Oh,
But-
it's like reading Indominus, right? Which actually, by the end of it, was a decent book. But it was just so funny at first, where it's almost just like, oh, okay, let me have out the list of models that I got in this box.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Check.
check it off.
Check.
It off. Mhm.
Check.
It was so blatantly a product placement book, which, obviously that's what this is going to be, but take it with a grain of salt. Also coming out is Siege of Terra, Book 7, Siege of Eternity in paperback or, soft cover.
Yeah.
So yay, if that's a shelf space thing for you. In Warhammer Plus, the only thing I give a darn about is Black Talon Episode 5. So again, if you haven't been following the Black Talon series, what are you doing with your life? Really? What are you doing? No, it's a good series.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Lore Masters is about Ultramarines. Wow. Okay, like we need more Smurf lore. Okay, anyway. And oh my God, they're going to do a battle report with what's in the Leviathan box. That's so cool. Okay. That's what's coming up on pre-orders. Shocking, I know, but it does sort of indicate that we won't be seeing any AOS stuff for a while.
Yeah, just hang in tight, folks. I'm sure we're going to see it pretty soon. And
Yeah.
in fact, what I'd say is what Cities of Sigmar and the Dawnbringer Crusade stuff is what's coming up next. So hopefully after this 2-week pre-order period, we can get one of those because
They'll slide it in, yeah.
God, I want that Flesh Eater Quartz model. I think it's going to be our time will come.
Yes.
For now, we need to weather the storm.
Yep. Just
Right.
grin and bear it.
And get ready for some good stuff by the end of the year, I think.
Yeah.
So, well, Leviathan, we'll see you soon.
Let's take a quick break and we'll run into our lore for the episode.
And now for something completely different.
All right, and now jumping into the lore of this episode. As we mentioned before, we're doing a tier list breakdown of the Path to Glories.
Spoiler alert. If your army has a path to glory, it's on this list.
Yes. Yes, it is. And, the other spoiler alert is going to be, yes, of course, we are starting from the bottom and going to the top. So
Oh, yeah.
typical, you have to listen to the whole thing. Ha. Anyway. And no, I will not timestamp it. Okay, so what we're going to cover first is the criteria we used, but also please understand that a lot of this is gut feeling about the different Path to Glories as opposed to you can break it down to numbers and this is better than that, because that's not how it works. So these are opinions and take them as such.
Yes.
So you want to start off with the criteria?
Yeah, so we had sort of 4 different things we looked at as criteria aside from just, gut level. So first off, complexity is something we looked at. How long will the aftermath sequence take? Should you realistically do it with witnesses?
Yeah.
Right? So that's these. There's a lot of bookkeeping in some of these.
Yeah.
A ton of bookkeeping. Everyone's got some, right? But like Karajan Overlords, you got to take your ships back to the dock. You got to see if you need to repair them. You need blah 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 blah. Right? Slaves to Darkness, you need to roll on like 35 different tables.
Yeah,
after every battle. So, it's good to have that complexity. It's a question. It's not a bad thing. Right.
No.
It's just a matter of what's the amount of time investment,
Right.
and is it worthwhile time investment
Yes.
to help push forward the narrative, right?
Yep.
As opposed to just something to do.
Yeah. And I mean, the grading, was kind of like on a 1 to 5 scale, with 1 being, holy crap, where's my spreadsheet?
Yeah.
All the way down to, oh, is the game over? Oh, yeah, no, I'm done. I mean, there's some of them out there that are just bone dead simple. You add up your renown, you add up your glory, you spend it appropriately, and you may get an additional source, of extra points that offset costs. That's super simple. You don't have to really think that hard about it. And a lot of them zero out those points at the end of every aftermath sequence.
Yep.
So there's no bookkeeping. It's just you've got your sheet already. You may need a side note or two, but easy.
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Next up was narrative impact. And this is where we kind of graded it on how hard does it hit the theme of the faction. And, in some cases, like we talked about with the Seraphon book, the whole thing of Seraphon versus Chaos only comes up in the Path to Glory stuff. Mm-hmm. So our ranking was kind of one where it just oozes the narrative. It captures the complete idea of the faction.
Yeah.
Even better than the main rules do, all the way to, 5, which is just, they didn't have to punch it up because the faction does what it does.
Yeah.
So it's already there.
The territories and quests, is that really about them adding value, right? Is it actually something interesting that the territory does, right? So kind of one, narrative and thematically excellent. Think of, go back to Slaves to Darkness on this one.
Yeah.
The Silver Tower.
Yeah.
Right? The literal Silver Tower.
Yes.
You get the Gaunt Summoner, and it lets you do all these things, but then if for any reason that territory is taken from you, you lose the Gaunt Summoner. That's really cool. Or like Disciples of Tzeentch, I think it was 61 or 62 in their table. It's one where you get a Cities of Sigmar character that joins your army or unit because you have infiltrated the cities.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Whereas 5 was, I like how you wrote it here. Look, that rock just gave me 2 wizards.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I got a territory. It added wizards. Okay. Wow. That's, everyone has something like that. So,
so it's sort of on that scale. And we talked about some really cool ones throughout.
Oh yeah.
All of this, but that certainly was a factor.
Yep. And then last but not least, the actual upgrade path itself. And this to me, I think, is where you see a lot of delineation in the Path to Glory setups for the stronger armies versus the ones that are maybe not so strong. And, some of the Path to Glories you can tell are honestly just page fillers.
Yeah.
For the books. Others are fully fleshed out. Oh my God, this actually keeps me coming back to play the game because after every game I am markedly improved.
Yeah.
I have better stuff. And some of the books are just like, okay, after this game, I'm going to get more renown points next time. Or I'm going to I got a veteran ability. And that's it. And again, I'm not slamming it at all, because when you look at some of the very strong factions, they don't need to be plussed up to be able to play well against people that have those other abilities. Mm-hmm. So they will survive. They will play well, and they don't need a ton of stuff. Whereas some really do need the help that Path to Glory will give them.
Certainly. So that does have the balance of the power it gives, right? But also is there a narrative progression too, right? So it ties back to the impact on it,
Yeah.
Because if it's literally you gather bones and you get more bones.
Yeah.
And then the bones go away.
Right.
That's your Path to Glory. It's very, very cynical about it, but that's not very fun impactfully,
Yeah. It goes back to, complexity as well as narrative impact. Does it really have that big of a push on the game? Well, no, it doesn't. But is the book strong enough to make up for that in and of itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. So, Lumineth Realm Lords, if you had a Path to Glory that gave them a whole ton of new magical abilities, you would skew that faction hard and, probably make it not very fun to play against even at the outset. So I think they did do a good job of capturing which ones needed really ramped up Path to Glories and which ones didn't. And, again, I think the Fire Slayers, well, we'll get to it when we get to it. So shall we start at the bottom?
Yeah. So we put this one here.
We have a special tier.
Special tier goes to Flesh Eater Courts, which is our D tier.
D.
It's the only one that figures in D tier. And just hold on, ground rule from the outset: Cities of Sigmar is almost out.
Yes.
I think they had a Tome Celestial in like White Dwarf 470 or something.
Yeah, way.
But we're not addressing them in this because they're right around the corner.
Yeah.
Right. So cities, and that's a hard one to rank anyway. But
Sure is.
certainly we can sort of revisit after we get the cities book and tell you where we think it would fit in this.
Yep.
But it is Flesh Eater Courts out of 477 White Dwarf, where I felt like all they did was print up a Path to Glory so that way they could play Path to Glory.
Yeah.
It doesn't do hardly anything. It doesn't give anything really cool. It's again one of those you get extra points or you get a reduction in cost for units.
Yep.
In the Aftermath sequence, you only have 3 veteran abilities as opposed to 6.
Yeah.
There's no heroic upgrades, so you can't take your Ghoul King onto a mount.
Yeah.
And I don't even remember if they really had territories, but it's just so lackluster.
Yeah.
And it was literally just, we'll fix it later.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's got to be that the book is in work, and why spend a lot of effort when you're just going to release it sometime within this year. So I get it. It's okay. They're the only one that scored straight 6s on our 1 to 5 scale.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I feel bad. Not really.
Me too. I mean, I'm still going to try and make it work for, the campaign here, but that's really just to inspire myself to get it all painted for when the book actually drops and I have a fully painted Candyland army. So yeah, that was the special D tier. Next is C tier. And so we sort of put it needs some work to play well.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it's because it's a convoluted Path to Glory process or it's a weaker Path to Glory process. Either way, it's something where, like, in order to make it narrative focused, it's going to take a lot of work because either there's nothing there to really work with or it's just doesn't actually play.
Yeah. There's something with it that just makes it, I'm doing Path to Glory, but only because I have to.
Yeah.
So in this tier, we'll start out with OBR.
Yes.
So OBR had one of the blandest Path to Glories of all the books. I think it's because they feel like that book is going to be super strong. I'm not sure that's going to play out, but I mean, quite literally, they get some points that they can use as replacements to glory points. And then that total is zeroed out. You're literally just collecting bones through the game and then spending those bones later on, and then you give them up.
Yeah.
So it's the amount of paperwork, the amount of overhead is 0. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of a bonus, but it doesn't really impact their territories. Are really cool and really interesting.
Yeah.
But overall, it's just, you're just there. You're just playing. You're just rolling to see if you get a cool territory and what it might do. The quests are stock standard.
Yeah.
Do this quest to get a scenario, do this quest to get stuff, do this to get more bones, and do this to just play a game.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think they feel that this is a very strong book. I don't know if that's really being borne out in play.
Yeah.
But there can always be adjustments later.
Yeah. I hope there will be.
Yeah.
Ways to enhance it moving forward. Like, I would always pray that they're going to hope.
Yeah.
Maybe even write GW.
Yeah.
God forbid. That they're going to do a Path to Glory book, like a consolidated
compendium,
supplement. That'd be great because then they can go in and sort of like
adjust
look
all
at
of
it in the
these
aggregate.
Yeah.
I realized I forgot to write it down on here, but just in line with OBR is Beast of Chaos.
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing. You go feasting. Well, rather not feasting. You gather sacrifices for your dark gods. You go and try and sacrifice the dark gods. You get units for it, and then you devour whatever's left over. And then what it does for you more directly, though, and this is where it's like sort of a power creepy thing, is that you just actually buy units with them.
Yeah.
So it makes me a little hesitant to want to push forward on it. But that's all it does. It doesn't do anything super cool or narrative.
Right. It doesn't. Yeah. It's not going to hit you in the feels.
Yeah.
At all.
Nothing to really work with narratively other than they're just chaos incarnate.
Yeah. Next in the C tier is Idoneth Deepkin. And I would love to comment on this, but I completely forgot what theirs does.
It's like the same thing where you collect the souls and then
Oh, that's right. Yes.
you use the souls for like recovery rolls and stuff, and then you lose all the souls.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You can kind of see a pattern there, right, folks? Is that, what we're dealing with is so much of when it's that, and that's just simplistic. Like that's, again, that sort of filler kind of thing, where it's like, crap, well, they're going to want to play it at some point. So let's just throw something in there.
What are we going to give them that doesn't break the system?
Yeah.
And honestly, if you look at this entire C tier, these are all things that it's not going to break the path to glory, but it certainly doesn't enhance playing the army.
Yeah.
So that's the overall.
Next one, Hedonites of Slaanesh. This one, it's just so weird. I mean, well, you see all the chaos stuff is they have if you have a hero, you can summon this many demons, and you never include demons on your order of battle. What the Hedonites have is this like in-game thing.
Yeah.
Where if you build up 36 depravity points, you can then drop all 36 on an obsession.
Yeah.
And again, that was based off of the circles surrounding the Palace of Slaanesh. And you get like some sort of game-wide effect, right? But you have to hit 36.
36 depravity.
And that's all it does. It doesn't do anything else.
Yeah.
Like, you don't expand your scope of other things. You don't, if I satisfy all of my obsessions, then I ascend to become a keeper of secrets.
Yeah.
Like, none of that, right? It's literally just, you get a really interesting buff once per game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very cool setup. I mean, it's a cool system, but honestly, it's a one and done kind of, all right, yeah, there's that thing. So, and there is a lot of paperwork attached to it. There's a lot of tracking during the game, and it can be boring for what the payoff is. So, ho-hum. And then last on our C tier is Skaven.
Yeah.
Poor rats.
This one here is all about their master plans.
Yeah.
And like, it sounds like it's this massive undertaking. And if you fulfill your master plan, then you get some sort of great benefit. Like the master plans are absurd things like successfully chanting, 12 or 15 prayers in the course of a single game.
Yeah.
You're like, that is so hard to do.
Yeah.
Right? Or casting a ridiculous number of spells, or like bringing back Molder packs like 5+ times or something absurd.
Yeah, it's...
You know what happens if you fill the master plan? You don't take casualties for that battle.
In an army that cares about casualties about as much as I care about, I don't know, nothing. So, yeah, it's a lot of work for the impact being so minimal. And, okay, so one of my units starts with 5 less rats.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Huge impact there. No, not at all.
Not at all. And that's it. I mean, that's all it really did. It didn't give us anything super fun. Like if you have a rat warlord and, let's say it's from Scryer, and then you're like, well, I want to add, this, master clan hero in, like at a certain like renown point, do they start to scheme against each other? Can they fight each other? There's so much like there that they could have done, just like with any of these.
Yeah, there's unused design space here that could have been explored, but instead it's just very basic, do these things in game to achieve these things after the game.
Yeah.
And okay, in and of itself, that's, it's fun. It's engaging, but it doesn't hit all the buttons.
No, certainly doesn't meet a lot of the criteria, right? So,
all right, shall we move on to a slightly better tier?
B tier, playable in all respects. Frankly, this is where most books fall. And, this is where it's more than what we just looked at, right? But it's not something extra. Right. So with this one, well, Seraphon actually fell into this one.
Yeah. They are super playable with their path to glory, even though it's not flashy, it's not incredibly impactful until you turn the page to get to the territories, and then you go, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So it's the territories that pop them up into the B tier, because those Seraphon territories are very impactful and very, very strong. If you're playing against Seraphon in a path to glory, don't let them get a 66.
No.
Because, wow.
Well, one thing too with them is that in terms of like an actual path, you do have an upgrade path for your unit, so to speak, because of the 6 different spawning pools.
Yep.
You can sort of predict these are the kinds of units I want from these spawning pools. And it could be reactive as like probably your Slan Star Master, your general starts to progress forward and you're like, I really need this unit and I need it to do this. Like in all the games I've been playing, that's going to help me out. So it's got good upgrade path. Narrative impact, like you talked about, it's got the chaos stuff that you don't see anywhere else.
Right.
So it's got it opens up story and perhaps what you may want to tell. But it's not just it doesn't have the Tzeentch, city thing that's like, what? And even then, I don't think that was enough to get Tzeentch to the next level. But we'll get there in a second. But Seraphon, solid.
Yeah.
They might even be sort of like the definition of B.
Yeah. They're the poster child for this isn't too much to handle, but the impact is very big and it hits the narrative of the army very square in the face.
Yep.
It really does capture the Seraphon motif. They are a solid B. Then next up, we have Blades of Khorne, which is a kind of a very strange Path to Glory in that it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of tracking, and there's so much randomness in there. So yeah, for Blades of Khorne, you have the mechanic where you're building your mountain of skulls. And if that doesn't scream narrative, I don't know what does, especially when and again, I think when we talked about this, we talked about how that's a direct throwback to the very first book in Age of Sigmar, where, Corgus Cole was desperately trying to get the last skull he needed to make his mountain work for him. And I mean, it's just not only is it a nostalgic throwback, this is what Khorne would be doing. You want these skulls. And in game, you're tracking what you kill. Mm-hmm. And then when you get to that certain point, and I think it's 88, when you hit 87, now you have to select. I don't know if you have to select the opponent general or if you have to select one hero, but you have to basically mark a target and say, that's the skull I want. And getting it is a huge boon. Not getting it is, it's darn it.
Well, Khorne is so hero hammer, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's about them trying to ascend, and create the pyramid or whatever it is to gain favor with Khorne. And it was interesting in this how they tied it directly to your Warlord's Renown. That's where you're getting the numbers. 88 plus was the number you're looking at. And then you get a roll on this table for a reward of Khorne with a modifier based off of your Renown, right?
Yeah.
And you start with -2 to your modifier, so you can never obtain a Dreadhold or anything like that. But it is so much about what Khorne does, what Khorne heroes do. They compete and they try to claim enough skulls and get enough renown that Khorne recognizes them.
Yeah. And so, playing that Path to Glory, you feel like you're a Khorne general. Yeah. You feel like you're playing Khorne. So that's awesome.
I like that one in terms of why I didn't go up to A for me, is that it was just so simplistic. It's get renown, roll the table. I think there's other things they could have done to enhance that, particularly an upgrade path for the heroes tied directly to that. So if you have your basic aspiring champion, I know you can upgrade him with renown and glory, right? But build something into it. Oh, you roll these dice. If this hero was an aspiring champion, they now become, an exalted Deathbringer.
They graduate. And there's a little bit of space there for neatness that they just didn't capitalize on. But again, you're still playing it and having a great time and feeling corny.
No doubt. Yeah. No doubt. After that was Daughters of Khaine. So Daughters of Khaine was sort of like probably our poster child for, hey, this book is strong, so the Path to Glory doesn't need to be too intense.
Yes.
Right?
But it worked.
It does.
Yeah, their Path to Glory is super basic, and it was, like you said, it was the first time that we saw Path to Glory that on its surface seemed really boring, and it was like, wow, they just needed to tie up a couple of pages. But then when you realize that if you had given them way more opportunities to advance the units or to become stronger, now they have some bonkers veteran abilities, and their territories feed right into what they want to do.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why they're B tier. But if you had made it even just a little stronger, I think you would have made them too strong on the table so that the gameplay would be affected very materially. And you don't want to do that with Path to Glory. You want to have craziness. I mean, we all know you're playing narrative, and there balances out the window. You also don't want to make it a game where if I have to play you and your Daughters of Cain army, I'm just like, yeah, okay, let's not even set up. You win. You know, you don't want that. You don't want that kind of feeling that it's oppressive.
Yeah, and just so everyone remembers, it's the Daughters of Cain gives you the gladiatorial arena, so you have like a little mini game that you can do in the aftermath sequence to try and like jazz them up. You know,
it's kind of like the territory that everybody gets that you can send your guy to and maybe get some renown. They just expanded it for Daughters to be, like you said, a mini game.
Yeah, which that's what kind of breaks them away from what we saw in the previous tier. You know, is that it did something more, right? It's not just you get X amount of points and then you lose them, right?
Yeah.
It takes you to another place, which is very, I mean, Daughters of Cain lore, they have gladiatorial arenas and they fight, you know.
And they're always fighting to see who's the best witch elf and who's the best blah, blah, blah. And and there's ranking and there's losses that are included in that.
Yep.
And sometimes the infighting affects you on the table.
Yep.
And that's good. One of the things that the Daughters of Cain book brought home to me was the idea that the aftermath sequence really should be done in the presence of your opponent.
Yeah.
Because it would be real easy to say, oh, look, I rolled that's, I mean, a lot of these aftermath sequences, you can just end the game, go off to a different table or, go home and run through the aftermath. Nobody's going to care.
Yeah.
Unless you roll that 66, then, I don't know how you prove that. But I mean, it's the Daughters of Cain one is one of those ones that really you should do it in the presence of your opponent because so much will affect you in the next game. So
yes, agreed.
All right. Next up was the Night Haunt book, which, as far as just supremely playable goes, again, these guys are really defining what just playable means. Mm-hmm. It's a simple path to glory where they're trying to this is a common theme through the Death armies.
Yeah.
They're all about territories and whether or not they're hunting them or whether or not their opponent has released a territory from their control.
Yeah.
And it sounds really kind of simple, and it is, but it's really kind of interesting in the fact that everybody else, rolls for a territory, gets the territory, gets the effect. The Death armies have to go through that process, but then they have to keep being mean to that territory in order to keep it. Uh-huh. So it makes it really kind of fun. And I really like it. It's a simple path to glory. There's not a lot of bookkeeping. You're only going to make a little annotation on your sheet to talk about your territories and how much you've terrified them.
Yeah.
So super simple, but incredibly thematic because this is Night Haunt we're talking about. They're not going to go somewhere and, camp on an outpost or camp on a thing. No, they're just literally keeping the inhabitants of that place terrified enough to make sure that they have a constant source of souls to, make new death people.
And that's what takes them out of, C tier into B tier is that it creates an interaction with other players.
Yes.
Because the other players can, exercise the territories and you have to go back and haunt them again, So, something just seems like, it's just something I have on my, order of battle. It's just documented, that kind of thing. This is actually like, no, if you're playing a Night Haunt player, then you know that you can actually go exercise their territories to be able to get them to not be progressing as fast.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those things where it doesn't have an impact on this game, but it will have an impact down the road.
Yep.
And this is where you hit that narrative of, most of the Death armies work this way. There is a delayed payback for their path to glory, and they have to stay on top of it, and so do you if you're playing against them. If you ignore them and you just let them grab all this stuff, they're going to become very strong very fast.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So after Night Haunt, Lumineth Realm Lords.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's sort of in the same vein as like Doc. It's like it's a strong book, so they give you like the different glyphs, right, that you can activate and use. Yeah,
and the idea of if I win a battle, I can consecrate this area. And it's kind of a double whammy for winning, and it's a double whammy for losing because so much of your path to glory is tied to getting the glyphs squared away. And I like the fact that they are telling you that winning is good and you should really be out there to achieve these things because it's going to make you stronger going forward. Yeah. If you get lackadaisical in a game or if you start to get on the back foot, it's going to be very painful to get back on track.
Yeah.
But again, you're playing Lumineth Realm Lords. You have a lot of advantages on the table. Yeah. Advantages. You have a very strong army, and playing it moderately well will guarantee you some measure of success.
Yeah.
So I hate to say it's a win more, lose more mechanic, but it really is.
Yeah.
And that's okay because there's always somebody that can take you down.
There is. Again, just straight B. Just that's what it is. It's not some weird, you don't lose as much models mechanic. It's actually something that you have to consider, right? What you're trying to do.
Yeah.
You know, perhaps if you're creative enough, you can make it so like a certain sequence of glyphs means something in the story. Work with your Neo on that.
They were brought down almost by their quests being so lackluster, but
yeah,
it's still, they're a fun thing to play and you'll enjoy playing their Path to Glory.
Yeah, they barely hung on, didn't they?
Yeah.
Ogor Matribe. This one was, we're starting to see some of the flavor here, right?
Yes.
And sort of how there are multiple themes running through that. But this one is obviously you're taking a tyrant because you are trying to collect all the big names.
Yeah.
Right? Which is awesome. Essentially, you get a superpowered tyrant by the end of it, assuming he survives through the campaign. But you can eventually obtain every big name for your tyrant, which is cool.
And this is the ultimate poster child for all of your eggs are in one basket, whether you like it or not. And I mean, you're going to get this tyrant who's going to have 3, maybe 4 big names in the middle of the campaign. And you are going to be very cagey with that. He's going to be very strong, but if he dies, oh my God, it hurts. So yeah, I mean, it gives you a thing to play around that in a normal game with Ogre Maw tribes, you're going to play your tyrant a certain way.
Yeah.
Because it's what he does. When you start playing it in Path to Glory, you're going to play a little bit differently with your warlord because losing him is impactful. And it just ties the narrative of that book together. The idea that the tyrant basically holds this band together by sheer force of will. And when you lose him and all that will goes away, you are literally back to square one. And you may have already upgraded your stronghold and you're in the middle of a campaign and all of a sudden you've got to really work to get another tyrant built up. So
hint on that one. Anyone playing Ogre Maw Tribes, go for the 5-up board and the 3-up save first.
Yes.
Then Ogres also have like a feasting thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Their basic mechanic. Yeah.
So you kill stuff, you get additional bonuses. You roll 66 at the end of it. If you roll high enough, you get a bunch of buffs, which I think are just for like the next battle, or you get like a bunch of glory and things like that. It's looting, plundering, consuming. It's everything the Ogres do, right? So again, now we have a separate, so the game itself, it's not just, hey, cool, my tyrants do this, right? But I have some, like my game impacts the aftermath sequence, which allows something to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Which is great.
Sure is.
And starts to sort of show when you get more flavor, right? More interesting stuff to happen for your armies.
Yeah.
You know? So Ogre's strongly in B, maybe even like moving towards A.
Yeah. All right. So now we got to go to Sisters of Battle. Oh, no, wait. Sons of Behemoth. I saw SOB and I'm like, why'd you put Sisters of Battle in here?
They're actually really good in AOS.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Those last guns are. Ooh. Anyway, Sons of Behemoth. Now, this is a crazy Path to Glory that just kind of defines what you can do when you put your mind to it. When they really put effort into a Path to Glory, you get something like this, where you're literally baking into the games a mechanic for, I have a unit with maybe 6 models. How do I reflect that in Path to Glory?
Yeah.
Well, this is what they did. They basically said, you have to build that you have to build that force, and it has to be your guy. You know, if you look at the Footslaga's rabble and all the steps that you have to go through, and then based on your renown points, what your tiers of battle can be. So you are the only force And I think this is the only path to glory where your tier of battle, because you're not tied to an outpost. And so they eliminated that component that tied you to, you know, oh, I have to build up an outpost. Well, we're just wandering giants. We're not going to build up a stronghold.
Yeah.
So instead, they tie it to your Mega Gargant's renown.
Yeah.
And just all of the little things that they did in this just tie around to the fact that the biggest, baddest giant is going to be the guy in charge. Mm-hmm. And as you go through the system and you start becoming a stump and you start picking up everything in their Path to Glory is different from every other Path to Glory out there.
Yeah.
The way they get territories completely different. The way they handle wounds obviously has to be, you can't have a casualty roll for a giant. It's got to be much, much different. And so they really, really worked hard to capture the flavor of a 6 model, 8 model army and how you would play that in a Path to Glory. And I consider it to be one of the best efforts they did. The only reason it's not A tier is literally because not that many people are going to play Sons of Behemoth in a Path to Glory. I don't think. Maybe there's a lot more than I think, but it's, you know, first of all, the investment in time and money is huge.
Yeah.
But it's also so very focused on the unique weaknesses of that army in a Path to Glory. So it addresses all the concerns you might possibly have. It probably should have been A tier, but it's a solid B. It hits their narrative perfectly. The thing that I say would hurt it is it's so bloody complex. It's so the amount of tracking that you have to do to make sure that your guy stays in charge is tough. And it's, you know, again, it's one of those, there's a lot of work here, but it's still, you know, when you look at all the things you don't have to do in the aftermath sequence, you know, it evens out. It pays off. It's a very good Path to Glory. And if you like giants, you will love playing that Path to Glory. It's fun.
Yeah, I think something they did here ties into like Karajan Overlords, where you have sort of like the damage that rolls over.
Yeah.
You know, and trying to kind of heal your guys. That's what your territories actually help you do.
Yep.
So you keep sustaining them, and it is unlike any other Path to Glory that they did in the sense of like how the whole thing is structured, right? But it's also like incredibly basic, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where it sort of like hits in the B category. Yeah, there's like you need to keep track of stuff afterwards, but it's just I'm one of 4 tribes and we march through here and eat the things.
Yeah. And, you know, when you look at the fact you don't have to worry about strongholds and upgrading that, how do they bake that into the system? How do they, you know, because it would not have made sense for giants to go out there and build a castle.
No.
Because that's not what they're going to do. So instead you have this system, which is, you know, it's tied to your warlord's renown. And you could find yourself badly handicapped if you lose your leader, your chieftain. After you've set up your stomp, you've got everything working. He's got enough renown to be playing mid-tier and maybe even top-tier battles. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden you're back to, oh, man. Now, you know, obviously when your guy dies, the next one comes in with a serious chunk of the old one's renown. But it's still, you're going to be hampered in what you can do.
Yeah.
And it's going to hurt. So, again, the Path to Glory is going to change a little bit how you play the game. You're going to have to be a little bit cagey with your chieftain, even though he's powerful. But you've got to really think about sending him up forward early to get decimated. So, yeah, it's a solid B.
Next up, we have Disciples of Tzeentch.
The dots.
So this was a tough one. It was hard for me to not rank it as C, but I think that there's a couple things they did here that pulled it up. Mm-hmm. So again, they have the summoning stuff.
Yes.
Woohoo. They did something here they did not do in any other Path to Glory, which was the aerial battles.
Yes.
Which,
oh God,
you know, go back and listen to our talk through on the issues with that. But it was something where in situations where it could occur, it sounds really cool. Yeah. And it might be worth a try, or setting up a situation which you can try it within the narrative that you're writing.
Sure.
Right? Give those who have the aerial battle capabilities a chance to do it, you know? Then
I feel your pain.
And like literally that's it. But the thing that makes them stand out is the territories.
Oh
right?
God.
Particularly 61. where you have the ability to fold in Cities of Sigmar into the Disciples of Tzeentch, as we talked about.
Oh God, that's so broken. I love it.
Yeah, in the episode we did this, it was just like you could write an entire campaign off that.
Sure. That is the seed of an entire campaign.
Yep.
Yep.
And so, you know, I mean, it could even be like the sequel to the campaign you're doing. If like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no, actually, the Tzeentch player was able to corrupt the Cities of Sigmar, and they got some Phoenix Guard and a Flamespire Phoenix, and then it's just okay. Now in the next round of the narrative, we're gonna bring that issue up.
Yep.
You know, that's where they really started to sing. That's where they started to appear and be like, yes, this is good. I want this. I want this to be a thing.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was. So then, sort of in keeping with very generic, is the Magakin of Nurgle.
Yeah.
They are the Chaos version of Night Haunt.
Yes.
Because they have their demon stuff, and
Yeah.
then they try and like plant the seeds of Nurgle
Yep.
in the territories to make it these corrupted versions, and people can burn them out.
And you can corrupt, and it plays so much into the Nurgle. This is what you think of when you read all the Nurgle books with Nurgle in them. This is what they do, and it just makes it appear on the table, or in the Path to Glory campaign, and that's awesome. Awesome.
Oh yeah, super generic there. I think that it's a solid B.
Yep.
I think when you look at all the Bs in the aggregate, there's a reason why they're Bs.
Yeah.
And then when we get into the next level, things start to get real interesting. So, any thoughts on B before we leave him, Bill?
No, I mean, like we said, absolutely none of these, even the C tier, they're all playable. I mean, they're all gonna the different tiers to us represent how much fun they're going to be.
Yeah.
And literally fun is so subjective. You might be looking at this list going, you know what? The best one out there is OBR, bar none. And that's fine. But when we get into this A tier, now we're talking about Path to Glories that are engaging in so many different ways.
Yeah.
That you almost want to say, I'm going to get one of these armies because that path is so much fun.
Yeah.
So you want to lead us off with those?
So very strong and fun. This is the A tier.
Yes.
This is not quite the best,
No.
right? But it's pretty much cream of the crop.
Yeah.
Otherwise. And so starting us off is Caradron Overlords.
Oh my gosh.
So, I, in preparation for this show, I'd gone back and listened to all of our rantings and ravings about the Path to Glory. One of the things that I couldn't stop harping on back then was just how much in their very rule set, in terms of making your custom fleet essentially and helping your admiral, gain renown throughout the lands, is how just the basic rules themselves were narrative.
Yes.
Well, I'm from this particular city and I have this particular code and amendment and footnote, and you can mix and match. You can take abilities that let you get additional footnotes and things like that. And there's narrative baked into that 100%.
Oh yeah.
So even before you walk to the Path of Glory, right, and you start getting into all the stuff with Caradron on their admiral,
Yeah.
right, you're already telling a story. You're already setting up literally the laws of your land. They had the really fun stuff with the sky vessels at the end,
Yeah.
right? We got to get back to port. We got to repair.
Again, casualty rolls aren't going to work for the ships.
No.
It's just not a good mechanic. So here is this crazy table, not crazy, but here is this table that you can use to represent damage to the ships and what they're going to look like when they hit the next game.
Yeah.
And carrying damage forward. So cool. So cool. And across the board, how their Path to Glory just doubles down on the basic idea of these guys are contractually obligated to play the game. So you might as well embrace that.
Yeah.
And if that appeals to you, if that idea of here's our written contract and here's all the ways I'm going to get around it.
Yeah.
If that kind of thing appeals to you, you are going to have so much fun playing a KO army in Path to Glory, provided, of course, you enjoy playing KO.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the Path to Glory just takes what's there and multiplies it by a factor of 2 or 4 or whatever you want to think.
Yep.
And giving you options and avenues. And, they have some quests in there that are like, okay, there's the Find Bugman quest. Yeah, whatever. Yeah. But then there's other quests in there that play right into your KO-ness. and your territories are all built around how you are KOing. And it just, I mean, it's one of those things that defines, we have a narrative book. Now let's take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And that's what they did in that Path to Glory. And it shows. It's really tight. It's really good. And the opportunities to abuse it, you know, in terms of the whole campaign with the Neo or whoever's running your campaign, you can have a blast with it.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can get crazy with it.
Yeah. KO's absolutely fantastic. Bill, why don't you go to the next one for us? Because I think this is one of yours.
Yeah, the Sylvaneth book. Now, okay, so Sylvaneth is one of those really weird, I want to love them a lot, but they're so hard to build. I mean, most of the kits, the newer kits, are just bone dead easy. But yeah, there's just so much.
Yeah, you can only put together so many of those. Their basic troops, what are they called? The Dryads?
Dryads, yeah.
Only so many of those before your mind just starts like, I thought I just put this model together.
Yeah.
Like,
it's one of the older models. So it's all like body, arm, leg, head. So I have a box, a Plano box with nothing but these are all right arms. These are all left arms. And you just pick out a set and build it. And it's just so mind numbing.
Yeah.
But they're fun. I mean, so their Path to Glory is basically set around you're picking a season.
Yes.
And oh my gosh. So some people consider it too limiting. To me, I'm like, this gives you your paint scheme. It gives you your basing scheme. It forces you to buy 4 different armies. Yay, GW. No, but you pick a season and then you have the Watchers in the Wood. So you record the name of your Wildwood on your roster, blah, 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 blah. You do all this other stuff and you're going to go through a full cycle of seasons. And honestly, it's such a simple, easy Path to Glory. But again, the territories play into it. The heroic upgrades play into it. Everything plays into the fact that you're flipping through seasons as you battle. And another reason I like the Sylvaneth one is you will probably not have a lot of pushback when you want to play your super cool quest scenario, because it's not one of those that, it's not the Tzeentch one where if you don't have flying units, you're all dead. So again, just everything from the way they get territories to just the basic narrative and how it's fulfilled in this Path to Glory just makes it play. If you're playing Sylvaneth, you want to play this Path to Glory. It's fun. It's not complex. It's not a lot of bookkeeping. It's super easy, but it really captures Sylvaneth.
It's the changing of the seasons that really makes this thing stand apart, right? And it's the one thing that we talked about a lot when we were first looking at it, how having the different seasons can literally guide an entire narrative campaign.
Yes.
Right? And I think that really kind of comes out with this,
It takes something briefly mentioned in the lore part of the book and just expands on it to the nth degree.
Looking at how like some of the battles, you have to fight in each of the different seasons of war, what that means, what can it be narratively, right? Yep. Does your Neo make it so that way the seasons of war change every 2 battles, 3 battles, or is it, 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Right.
Or does he leave it up to you to play? There's a myriad of different ways to approach that. And it's easy for the campaign person, the Neo, but it's also easy if there's nobody tracking that, it's easy for you to agree with your opponent.
Yep.
What you're doing this time.
Yeah, that's where Sylvaneth really comes in, is not necessarily, like you're saying, like the complexity of their internal book, but what they do for the rest of the campaign, right? Expanding that narrative to include a lot more, right? I think that if you have a Sylvaneth player, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Because it forces you to have a mechanic involved that you may not otherwise have involved, which is seasons change.
Yeah. And the changing of the seasons so that he can have a shot at, or she can have a shot at going through their progression. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's fun. And it encapsulates and amplifies what Sylvaneth is all about.
Yeah.
And that's why it gets A tier, is because it hits that theme so hard, right in the face.
Yeah.
So
then next up we have Auric War Clans.
Oh God.
This one dropped way back at the beginning,
Yeah.
and they just knocked that one straight out the park.
It was one of those first ones that was just like, oh my God, this is what they're gonna do.
Yeah, and is really feeding into well, frankly, the story at the time, and it did, because of Kragnos.
Yeah.
Where it's a eventual calling of the Big Wa, right? You have your main faction that you play with, but depending on the amount of glory you want to spend, you can call the Big Wa and summon in units from. Well, I'm Cruel Boys, so I'm bringing Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters, and we're rushing into this battle, and
Yeah.
it's great, and all their stuff is surrounding making sure that you earn enough glory to do so. But what I like about this, particularly for Path to Glory, is expanding your collection.
Yes.
Right? It showed us how you could do that by giving you clear goals, right? Which is, well, if I'm going to call the Big Wa, then I'm going to want to make sure that even though I'm starting out as Cruel Boys, right, I'm going to want, the cabbage with me.
Yeah.
I'm going to want 20 Ard Boys to be able to tank a bunch of hits.
Yeah, I'm gonna want some doggos, and it just hits. It doubles down on the mechanics of how the faction plays.
Yeah.
It's all tied around the Big Wa, and the Big Wa is baked into the rules of the book.
Yeah.
And by enhancing that and giving you a narrative method of obtaining that kind of thing, it's like Scream's theme.
Yeah.
So yay, Oryx. We were super impressed with that one. Little did we know what would come quickly on the heels of that one would blow it away. But it should not be overlooked. It's a very cool Path to Glory.
And one just sort of honorable mention on it, I guess I'll throw out there, is with how you ransack territories, so you have to earn the territories and then you have to complete quests to ransack them. So they gave you, again, your own little game to work through.
Yes.
Right? I think it's very fun. Like if you're an Orc player and you like Orcs for being who they are, they hit the nail on the head with the Path to Glory.
They sure
it's
did.
strong. It's fun. It's everything that you would want an Orc Path to Glory to be, other than having the bosses fight each other if they got too powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only thing that could have made it just that much better.
I know.
Keeping it from S tier. Right? Mm-hmm. Then Soulblight Gravelords, right? So
Oh God, this is so good.
So again, it's very similar to what we saw with Night Haunt. And you have you influencing your territories. So you can influence territories or your influence can be undermined,
Yes.
right? Well, that sounds just like Night Haunt, Josh. Why is it different? Well, because we're talking influence, right? We're talking narrative.
Yes.
Instead of just like, oh, that place is haunted, man. Don't go over there,
Yeah.
right? Or go exercise over there. If you're exercising influence over a particular area, it means that cities and people within that locale, right, are being influenced by the vampire, maybe not just necessarily outright dominated, right?
Yeah.
And I think that if you're looking at the narrative aspect of it, that can play a huge part in what the Neo would do. In particular, for an example, right? Let's say that, you're converging on this town, and little do they know at presently that it's under the influence of the vampire.
Yeah.
And so then you may have, like, at random times, like zombies pop up, or, mind-controlled townsfolk come out and just randomly attack the Stormcast, tie them up in combat when they don't want to be.
Yeah.
Like, that creates so much space for creativity, right?
And a Neo could take, if you have one or two death players, you could literally base your campaign around the territories that they have exerted influence over or haunted or what have you. And, the rest of the players are trying to eliminate that influence.
Yeah.
And, you can just play down on that theme so easily it hurts. And I mean, that could literally be the focus of your campaign.
Yeah.
It could be just easily written for you in those books, in the death books.
Yes.
And, so if you have a preponderance of death players, lean into it.
Yeah.
Let that be how you work your campaign. It's, hey, Stormcast, this area is overrun by death. Let's get everybody together and try to work this out.
Yeah.
And everybody, the Sylvaneth person's going to want to go over there and exert some influence and turn those into nice places.
Yeah.
The LRL player is going to want to go in there and throw some glyphs down there to get rid of these damn goblins.
Yeah.
Spooks and goblins. You don't want that. No. So, there's a campaign baked right into the Soulblight book.
And one thing they throw in here too, and I know we kind of joked about this before, but they have the name generator in here,
Oh,
which that's not really the big thing. The name generator is great, but what you have is a dynastic quirk,
yes.
right? And so you roll a D33 or roll a D3 twice, trying to figure out what it is, you know? And so just some of those, just to read them to you. Like a 21, your dynasty is highly selective when it comes to granting the blood kiss, observing promising mortals from the shadows before moving in, right? Or 33, the soul blight curse is mutated hideously within your dynasty, though you try to conceal this from your rivals. It gives you ways to model. It gives you ideas as to what your story could be.
Yep.
You know, there's so many things in the dynastic quirk alone to just change, wholly change conceptually what your army is, even if the models are still the same.
Exactly.
It's
is there one for Candyland in there? No.
sorry, it's not Flesh Eater Courts, you know. And so again, what does Soul Blight do that Night Haunt doesn't? It's the same thing that Sylvaneth does.
Yeah.
The effect it has externally on the campaign,
Yes.
right, is significant.
Yep.
And so you just need a good Neo to be able to work that.
To tease it out of there. Yeah.
And then even then, if they're not catching on to it, you as the Soul Blight player or the Sylvaneth player, right, can go up to him and say, hey, you know, I heard these guys talking about this. Is there any way we can work this into the campaign?
Yep.
So I think that, while not on its face like, oh, it looks almost just like Night Haunt, it has repercussions to the greater campaign.
Yep.
So certainly A.
Definitely. And the last of the A's.
Stormcast.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So next up in the A tier is going to be the old tried and true, the poster boys of AOS. It's the Stormcast Eternals. And when we originally made this list, we had them down in the C because, well, Stormcast are boring. and actually overviewing the Stormcast Path to Glory, it's actually pretty good. There is not only the reforging process for your warlord, which gives you a mechanic that few other Path to Glories have in when you lose your warlord, it hurts bad. When you lose your warlord in Stormcast, it's painful, but he's coming back. Don't worry. She's coming back. But the big thing there baked into the Stormcast book is the roll your own storm host rules.
Yeah.
Where you get these tenets and you can pick 2 of them. So it allows you to have that freedom, just like, you know, you would see over in 40K with a chapter of your own creation. This is an AOS, a storm host of your own creation, and you can give it 2 tenets that sort of play into the way you want to play Stormcast.
Yep.
And there's such a wide-ranging variation of tenets that you can pretty much tailor that army to fit what you want it to be. And that's a really strong mechanic. And the amount of overhead for that is 0. Once you've decided on your tenets, you literally play the games and do Stormcast things and then reap the benefits thereof.
Yeah, I'd say we were a little in disagreement with this first. And I think about it, and here's where I fall on it. I think, yes, in terms of the internal narrative, right? For the Stormcast themselves, I think it's very powerful.
Yes.
And I think it's really good for those reasons. It does not have necessarily a larger implication without some work,
right,
on the rest of the campaign, right?
And again, you know, if you have a strong organizer, you could sit there and say, okay, we're going to do that death campaign that we were talking about. Okay, hey, Stormcast player, why don't you make a storm host that is built around crushing death?
Yeah.
And so, you know, yeah, there's ways to work it, but you're right. It is very encapsulated in itself. But I think just that flexibility to play that book the way you want it to be, as opposed to being limited to the choices in the book, I think that kicks it to A tier.
Yeah.
So
it's like I said, it would take some work to get there,
Yeah.
but it does create unique identity for the Stormcast player, assuming they go that route, right? If you just go, you know, I'm going to take one of the other storm hosts.
Yeah.
Even though you probably should do a wombo combo with
But yeah.
one of the other ones. I mean, you can make some really bonkers combos for Stormcast, like just having a 6-up ward instead of just a 6-up ward on objective. Or
Yeah.
retreating and charging.
Yeah,
Or running and charging.
There's some things that can, if you have a certain play style you enjoy, you can double down on it. So yeah,
that gets your own paint scheme, that gets your own storm host going.
Yep.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, I think Stormcast, if you're selfish,
Yes.
is an A.
That's why I like them.
And by God, the end of the A's,
The end of the A tier.
the original Path to Glory,
Yeah.
Slaves to Darkness.
OG. So why is Slaves to Darkness A tier?
So, well, the namesake's already there, right? The Path to Glory. So all the heroes in Slaves to Darkness are seeking the Path to Glory to try and attain
Yes.
demonhood, right? To get the favor of the gods. And they already have baked into their rules the Eye of the Gods table,
Yep.
which is just so fun,
Yeah.
right? And that's at play in Path to Glory too.
Yes.
In your games, you still have it.
Yes.
But what we get here is that they really double down on what the Path to Glory means.
Yes.
Right?
Oh my gosh.
Trying to vie for the favor of your god, right? And what you can do with it. And the function that they have here was the gifts of chaos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're trying to obtain a certain amount of favor, right? Ultimately, once you've obtained a certain amount of favor, you can roll in the aftermath sequence D6s, right? You can only ever roll 6 total, so you have to spend favor to roll the 6
Yep.
dices, 6 dice, and you get some benefit. So you check for doubles and triples, right? Bit random, no doubt,
Yeah.
but it has really cool effects,
It does.
right?
It's very debilitating or very, very strong.
With this, you mean like what's a double one? If you're on a quest, you receive a quest point. Hey, that's not bad.
No.
All the way up to 66, impervious to pain. Do not make injury rolls for your warlord for your next 3 Path to Glory battles.
Okay. Oh my God.
Right?
Basically unkillable.
Right? So you get trip 4s, right? You can immediately add 1 new artifact of power to your vault.
Okay, that's unfair.
And then if you get 666,
Oh God.
you become a demon prince.
Yeah.
For free.
Yeah. It's just so out there. Ugh.
And one thing it does too, so to stop the gaminess of it, is that when you assign a unit to your army roster, you have to put down the god they serve if
Yes.
they do. And they're fixed, right?
Right.
So I have Nurgle chosen. It doesn't mean that I get to at a later point be like, actually I wanted to be Khorne. Nope.
Yeah,
you have
no.
to add a whole separate unit of
That's
Khorne
right.
chosen. Because it is in the narrative sense like they have their identity, right? They don't just
Yeah.
go switching gods
Right.
all over the place. So this has a lot of fun impact because the randomness of it
Yeah.
could just greatly affect how your army works.
You betcha. And it's the mechanic really works well and doubles down on the capriciousness of the Chaos Gods.
Right?
And you have to be ready for anything. And the way you can play into it is just so much fun. And you can get really, really crazy. And I will say one thing about Slaves to Darkness, they had some decent quests.
Yeah.
The quests allow you to do what you want to do as a Slaves to Darkness player, which a lot of them don't. A lot of these books, I thought the quests were very recycled. There's always a quest that lets you do blah. There's always one where you're trying to find Bugman, and if you find the clue or the Bugman or the this, you get this. In this one, you had where you have the one quest to seek out a banner. So if you do this quest and you're successful, you get to add a banner to your roster for free. This is something you want to do, and you really want to be on that quest. Then, of course, you have your Glory of Chaos, which is where you're going to pick your Slaves to Darkness that has the Eye of the Gods keyword, and boom, you're going to be able to do the rolls for that guy. And then you have the scenario quest. And so you have the one quest here, which is kind of that you can only take it if you're fighting an order against an order opponent. If you win, everybody gets a bonus renown point, and you get one more favor for your warlord. So you get to roll an extra die. So, the quests play into the Path to Glory, as opposed to some of the books where the quests seem like they're just tacked on.
Yeah.
Because they didn't, okay, there's always one that's going to launch a scenario, and some of the scenarios are just bonkers dumb.
Yep.
And some of them are really, really good. But in this one, all 4 of the quests are something that it's going to be a tough choice to figure out what quest to be on.
Mm-hmm.
So a very, very A-tier book. It plays into the total narrative of Slaves to Darkness, and it encapsulates what it means to be vying for the very fickle gods that you serve.
Yes.
Or God, because you got to pick one. And that was the end of the A tier, which leads us to the S tier.
Yeah.
These are the superlatives, the supremes, the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, the, oh my God, these are good.
Yeah.
And there's only 2.
There is.
And one of them is only because of one silly mechanic. The other one is because it hits so perfectly, it hurts.
Gloomspite gets. I mean,
oh my
hello.
God.
If you listened to that episode, you heard us ranting and raving, you know?
This is so stupidly cool.
I mean, what it does, and I absolutely love this, is it gives you just this independent action that each one of your units can do in a battle, right? You're looking for mushrooms to make mushroom potions, right?
Now think about this, though. Back off and think about this for a minute. You're in the middle of a battle. However, at least a couple of guys in each one of the units is snuffling around looking for, ooh, mushrooms.
Yeah.
Snip, snip, snip. You're like, what the hell?
Sounds about right for these mushroom crazed lunatics.
I love it. It's awesome.
I mean, they've always been a zany army. They used to be much more random than they are now. They're actually pretty potent right now, but they used to be so zany. And now what we're getting is these, for what we have in Path to Glory is every one of your little units gets to go out, even while you're in the midst of battle. You could be fighting Archaon, and they reach over and grab a bag of mushrooms. And then you roll to see which mushrooms you get, because it's random.
Yeah,
you know,
completely.
like all you know is that there are mushrooms there.
That's right.
So you roll and you get mushrooms, and then you record the amount of mushrooms you have, and then you have experimental mushroom potions.
God.
Where you slap them all together, and hopefully you make something that works.
Oh my God. And just the idea of the sheet that came, with the feel free to photocopy this sheet because you need to track how many of each of these you have. And then as you play Quacks of Quedlinburg to basically mix a mushroom potion. Oh, that it's just over the top. It's so Gloomspite because it has nothing to do with winning a game of AOS.
No.
It is so separate from absolutely anything that you are actually looking to do in a game.
Yeah.
But it's perfect. It hits Gloomspite so absolutely perfectly that, this is S tier stuff here. This is, and the mechanic takes a little less than a half a page to talk about.
Yeah.
And then there's, a page to photocopy to keep track of your mushrooms. And that's it. The impact is so minimal. It's nuts, but it's so good.
Yeah, I absolutely love, they went through and made 12 specific mushrooms, 6 common, 6 rare, just for purposes of this. You have a failure table if you mess up brewing your potions, you have all kinds of stuff that just makes it so fun. All their abilities and stuff just, speak to what they would do as the Gloomspite. Veteran abilities are fine. The quest picking season, being able to pick extra stuff, fungus finders, getting extra, mushrooms. It's all about this, and that's who they are in the lore, actually. I mean, they go crazy and they go out and fight and stuff, but they're really just looking for a good time, so to speak. They have really fun territories that go back again into the mushroom stuff. Heroic upgrades are great. I mean, gets are fun as they are, and if you read the lore, you understand that they are just wacky, insane dudes, and then you throw mushroom potions into the mix. And it's crazy. It's so fun. A lot of bookkeeping, slight bit of a detraction from that, but
it's not that bad though.
It's not that bad. I'm just saying it is a lot. So
it's one of those things where in the book you knew they were going to have to get rid of. They were either going to have to double down on the randomness of the book, which doesn't play well on the tabletop.
Yeah.
If you can't reasonably predict what your army is going to do, it's not fun to play.
No.
So they got rid of that. They made it go away. So what they did with the Path to Glory was they went back to that and just crazy, outlandish, nutty stuff.
Yeah.
And said, here it is. If this is what you were after, it's all here for you. And I love that. Mm-hmm. It adds that random, crazy stuff you expect from Gloomspite without bogging down the game mechanics. So perfect. Just superlative effort on their part.
Agreed. And it'd be sort of like in the Stormcast vein, it's selfish, right? To a degree.
Yes.
Right. But who's to say that if you're creative enough that like this mushroom stuff can't have an effect on everyone else, you know?
You know, I fly, like I said, when we covered this book and fly back to the Nova narrative, there was one entire table that was a mushroom table.
Yeah.
And it would have just hit this book perfectly. I mean, I guarantee you that Nova this year, that table is going to be all about this book.
Yeah.
Or this path to glory, I should say.
It's fantastic. And it creates such identity and great ability to craft the narrative, not just for that army, right? But also for armies around it, you know?
You can play into it as hard as you want.
Do you imagine like doing something where you could brew a potion for someone and you're like, okay, I can't tell you what the potion's going to be, but it'll be good.
Well, and that's just it, is what you let them sell them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hey man, if you got a couple of renown, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this bottle. Hey, you wanna have the bottle? Yeah, give me a couple of renown. And yeah, you can literally have a drug peddler.
Yeah.
In your game, and it'll actually be fun.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not just the person who works at the shop.
no. So now we have to hit the cream of the crop, and if you know us, you know what this is.
Yep.
If you've been following along, you know what it is because it's the only one left. But this is the one that just literally blew us away when we covered it, and that's the Fire Slayers. Just a path to glory that is bookkeeping intensive, but it is such a game in and of itself.
Yes.
That it's nuts. Fire Slayers takes Path to Glory to a whole different level. And if you don't recall from our show, basically what you're doing is you're hoarding gold. You're trying to keep all kinds of gold. You want to keep a note of how much gold you have in your treasury. Depending on the amount, your warlord earns bonus renown. So if you have 0 to 10,000 gold, you get no renown. 10,000 to 50,000, you get 1. 50,000 and up, you get 2. Oh, that's not a lot of impact, really isn't. But then when you look at what you can spend gold on, and when you take this in total, so before any game, you're going to consult the paymaster, and you're going to figure out what is at stake during that next game.
Yeah.
So you're basically going to roll a d6, and you're going to look at who you're fighting, and that's going to form the basis for what you're going to do going forward. And you're just trying to get gold. So if you have some of the vaults, some of the stuff you can spend gold on are, if you're in a mid or higher tier battle, you can hold a Guz Fest, which is you spend 100 gold for each unit in your army. Each unit in your army is then treated as having a bravery characteristic of 10 for the next battle. So, okay, my Fire Slayers are drunk.
Yep.
You can delve beneath the mountain. It's going to cost you 10,000 gold. If you do so, you don't roll a D66. You roll one die and add 60.
Yeah.
Hello. So, yeah, that's 10,000 gold, but it's going to guarantee you a special territory. You can forge a mighty artifact for 20,000 gold. And remember that this is going to affect your bonus renown for your warlord. And gold does not come easy to these guys. There is more tables in this one than any other book. But basically, as you have a reputation, a positive reputation, and that's for winning games with a contract. So at the beginning of every game, you determine the paymaster for the contract, you determine the quarry, and you choose whether or not to accept. So, and again, this is something that the Neo can just take and run with.
Yeah.
And just get absolutely silly with. But you have your quarry table, which is going to tell you basically what's going to happen to your reputation for taking that contract, what the reward's going to be. And some of these are like 2d6 times 1,000 gold. I like that. Others are going to be like, okay, you get -1 reputation and a d6 times 1,000. That's not a good payoff. But if that's the game you have to play, that's the game you have to play. So there is a ton of bookkeeping for Fire Slayers, but by God, it's fun. And once you've got it down, I would say the quests are pretty much stock standard. The veteran abilities, everything else is very standard in the book, but the gold system is just what launches it over the moon.
Yeah, having this mini game of gold and reputation, and how does that work? Because you build reputation by helping like order.
Yeah.
But you lose reputation by helping death.
Yeah.
or chaos, but you get more money.
Yes.
Right. And so it's just a matter of what you want to be, and how like a Neo can run with that is, oh, we have a death player, right? So the death player, essentially could be the payee, right? Or sorry, the payor, and just being like, look, I need you to go do this task, right? And maybe what that means is that they get to have a Fire Slayers unit from that individual's army that is controlled by that player join the force that you're in, right? Or the game plan that you're doing. Like, that is super fun.
It opens up these crazy ideas for 2x2 games, 2v2 games. If your Neo is really into running this campaign, they could completely replace that query table with whatever they come up with. And they could literally say, here's a deck of cards. I'm going to shuffle them up. Boom, here's what you drew. Here's your next contract. Now go find a player.
Yeah.
Because you drew, say, death with, a D. On the D6, you got a 5. So this is a lucrative contract. Yeah. You're going to want to find the death player and play him. If the death player doesn't want to play you, sorry.
Yeah.
You didn't get it. You're out.
Yeah.
So you need a new card. You need a new contract. And, the Neo could just run with something like that. Absolutely nuts. And, for each contract that you don't get fulfilled like that, maybe he charges you 1,000 gold.
Well, even think about interaction between two different books, right? So maybe what you've done is you decide to be a mercenary for a Soulblight Gravelord's army, and incidentally, as you play other games, you don't know this, but you are spreading their influence throughout the mortal realms.
Oh, God.
Which is creating a situation in which they're gaining power, and then it becomes an impetus for other armies, particularly other Order armies, like to go try and thwart them so the vampires don't become too strong. So you could see how those things interact. And the thing is, Fire Slayers reaches out and touches everything.
Every facet.
Can touch every other army with the mercenaries. It is so well done.
Yes.
Ripe with ideas. I think hands down best path to glory, barring, a miracle from Cities of Sigmar, Flesh Eater Courts.
Yeah, really.
Flesh Eater Courts might get there.
It could.
It could get there.
Very well.
Talk about my hopes for it in After Dark. So,
all right. So that was our tier list. That was weird. Never done a tier list before, but there we go. Top of the crop is definitely Fire Slayers and Glow Spites, just because the mechanic is so much fun.
Yeah.
And, gotta hit this as hard as possible. None of these are bad.
Yeah.
They all of them play toward the strength of the army in the book. So if it was a C tier, it's only because it didn't add that much to the overall feeling. But it's by no means, your aftermath sequence might take 5 minutes because it's super simple. You just get a couple of bonus renown and you move along.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these other ones are, intense. The Soul Blights, all the death, where you have to figure out the effects on the different territories and whether or not your opponent took some of your influence away or what have you.
Yeah.
Some of these are a lot more intense and they require a little bit more input in attentiveness. Whereas, others just, like the Auric, the Sons of Behemoth, that's just an internal thing that you're doing on your own. And you're just going to figure out what your effects are. And like you said, they're selfish. Stormcast, selfish. Yeah. Whereas other ones have far reaching impacts. But that's our list. That's our, that's our show.
Yeah. That is. Thanks for sort of taking a walk down memory lane with us. I went back and listened to every single one we talked about.
Sorry.
Back to Stormcast and Oryx, and it was an interesting jaunt.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that, well, one, if we need to readdress anything, that we could do so. But I feel like the assessments have all been fairly on point. There's a sort of a, we might say, fat middle if we're looking at it in terms of like the thickness of the tiers, because most stuff falls under the B tier, right? Playable, but it's not really doing anything.
I mean, as
extensive.
It shouldn't be too. There should be ends of the scope. There shouldn't be that many that are absolutely over the top.
Yeah, and certainly there should never be that. But what I like about that is that means that most armies, generally speaking, it's not going to have a super complex path to glory. New players are going to be able to pick it up super quick. Yeah, I've got a couple little things I do that just affect the base rules. I can summon some demons and I can, plant the seeds in the garden at these various territories. So that's fun. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's great. It's for the more like hardcore, like narrative players that you really start to push up into A and into S territory, right?
Yeah. You have to invest some time in this.
Yep.
So, yeah. Other than that, thank you for listening. Appreciate it. And I think we're going to move on to After Dark.
Yeah. So we'll see you all there.
The music in the show is used courtesy of Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com and is used under the Creative Commons license. The Rolling Bad podcast itself is protected under the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. Information for this license can be found at creativecommons.org.